Welcome to this week's Let's Talk Paranormal, brought to you from Beverly Hills here in California. And why are we here today? Well, I'm going to be meeting one of Hollywood's greatest celebrities, Michael Keaton, to talk with him about his new paranormal movie, White Noise. But before we meet Michael and my other guests today, take a look at this.
What you are about to hear is real. It has not been edited or enhanced. It is the voice of Ruth Baxter. This voice was recorded in August 2003. Ruth Baxter died in 1987. Electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, is the process by which the dead, through sound and image, communicate with the living through the static and white noise of modern electronic devices.
Get out! My house! Get out! My house!
What we've all hoped to be true is in fact possible. Our loved ones can reach us.
Mr. Rivers, do you want to hear your wife?
But if they can come through,
John, my love. John, my love. John, my love.
who else can come through?
It is one thing to contact the dead. It is another thing to meddle, and you are meddling. Oh my God.
The subject of some movies is so disturbing that those who experience them will never be the same again.
No!
White Noise.
Joining me on the show today is Hollywood celebrity Michael Keaton and Paul Brooks, the producer of White Noise. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to see you both. Michael, if I can ask you first of all, when you were first approached to play the role of Jonathan Rivers, what were your thoughts? Because this is so different for you. This is the paranormal.
It's different, so therefore it's different. I just got a script. Paul said, hey, I've got a script I want you to read. I think you're going to find it, I think you're going to like it a lot. In fact, he said, you're going to love it, is what he said. And I thought, no, I'm not. But because, you know, he'll tell you there just aren't that many scripts around that are good, or at least something that I feel like I haven't done before, or that, you know, capture my interest. So really, to put it simply, it was just really well written, and I also thought there was a risk in it because this is such a big concept, and I had no knowledge of EVP. I just thought it was an idea of a writer's, and I thought it was a really good idea. I thought it was risky, and Paul and I then talked about it some more, and then, you know, I started getting more and more interested, and we had notes, and the writer went and wrote a little more. We probably had some more notes. The writer wrote a little more. By that time, it started looking pretty good, and we had another Englishman, Jeffrey Sachs, directed from the BBC. He had done a great job on an Othello in BBC, and it just came together.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your character as Jonathan Rivers.
Well, he's a man who I keep describing as someone who's really living right in the sweet spot of his life right now. He's got his wife is the love of his life. It's a new marriage for him. And the other love of his life is his son from another marriage, and they're all together in the house. And even his relationship with his ex-wife is good. And he's about to become a new father again. A father again, and his architectural firm is in great shape. Life is just great when his wife passes on, so that is snatched from him. And he takes it very, very hard. He grieves deeply, and he's very vulnerable and feeling a great deal of loss when this opportunity comes up to contact his wife or make contact with his wife from the other side, or open up the channel to let his wife contact him.
Right.
And he's a skeptic. And then he's so grief-stricken that he takes the chance and tries it. And he makes contact, or she makes contact. And he then becomes somewhat of a believer, then he becomes really involved, then he becomes obsessed by it, then he becomes
Right.
a zealot, and ultimately becomes a hero, actually, because the audience is with him because you feel for him, and then he spins so far out of control, even I think the audience is watching him go deeper and deeper, and it gets darker and darker,
Right.
and scarier, because the unknown is really scary to a lot of people.
That's right. That's
But
right.
not to you, and
Not
that's why
to
you
me.
have this show.
That's right.
Nor to Paul.
Good point, Michael.
Thank you, thank you.
So obviously the character gets so deep and deep and deep into all of this, and a believer.
Yes.
What I want to know
Isn't I a believer?
Is Michael Keaton a believer?
No,
Really?
no. That's our
Tell
show
me.
for today. Thank you very much. Welcome
Show's
to,
over.
welcome to Skeptics and Non-Believers.
Now tell me why that is so.
Well, I don't even think there's such a thing as dogs. I don't really believe in dogs. Those little things are really people. I think I'm not a non-believer, and I'm not a believer, because that's like I don't know if you have a religious belief or whatever. How can you tell someone, well, your religion is fine and everything, but that's not really the real religion because Buddhism is the real religion, or being a Southern Baptist is.
Right.
It's not possible. But but on the other hand, if I couldn't give you a good reason why EVP doesn't exist, I don't know enough about it. So how could I say it's not true? Plus, a person's reality, we were talking about this, is a person's reality. So that's your belief system, and it's all perception anyway, isn't it?
Right, right.
Well,
Have you
Sometimes perception is reality, of course. In other words,
perception? Yes.
what's interesting about EVP is that some of the evidence seems to be pretty remarkable and pretty compelling. So if you take the evidence at face value, you take the moments at face value, it's a pretty startling concept, and some of the things that we've discovered, in the pre-marketing of this film, have been pretty astonishing. And I know you want to know more about them.
I do indeed. I do indeed.
That's what I'm sensing.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
that thing he's talking about, so also, unlike, I guess, seances or going to a psychic, where it's theoretical, right? Because whether it's true or not, there actually is a tape, a videotape, or a physical thing that you can hear with your physical ears, and so there is that. Look,
That's the extraordinary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody can try this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like everybody.
Well, what inspired you to create this movie, Paul?
As Michael said, my brother actually sent me this script 2 Christmases ago, and I was going to read it. I was reading it after Christmas lunch. I thought I'd read a few pages and then put it down, pick it up in the morning. I couldn't put it down. It was just a cracking page turner. And then I thought, and I didn't realise that EVP was actually something. I thought that it was just a great construct for the story. I thought it was just the coolest thing, and so I just wanted to do it because I just thought it was, potentially terrific entertainment.
Right.
And I love this genre.
Right.
And I'm personally fascinated by it.
So it was Boxing Day that you were reading it on? It was just...
No, it was Christmas. It was Christmas Day.
Okay, because you have this insane thing like...
Boxing Day is the 26th of December.
Yeah, but then you have,
Don't ask me about Boxing Day. I've got no clue. Listen, we used to.
I love the tease about it. Well, it's Guy Fawkes Day.
Well, how do we lose the empire, for God's sake? Huh? Sorry.
That's another show, isn't it,
right.
really?
No, and I think that, and then the more I started finding out about it, the more it became apparent that there was. What I think is fascinating about this, and presumably your audience, by definition, tend to be believers, or at the very least open to this.
Absolutely.
And I think that it just seems to me that, as Michael's been saying often, there's too many things that happen generally in our worlds that don't seem to be available for easy explanation.
That's true.
And the thing with EVP, we look at the power of radio waves, in our lives generally. Well, is it too inconceivable to think that there is a methodology in there and a mechanic in there that allows it to happen? And there have been, we both were told an extraordinary story by a journalist who actually interviewed Michael last week, who said she'd gone to this, the week before, she'd gone to do a show in a morgue in Chicago, the morgue where they took, if I get this right, they took the 800 dead people from the worst maritime disaster in America's history, where a boat capsized on the Chicago River.
One of the Great Lakes, I think.
Was it one of the, right? And so and she went there, and she said, and they were trying to because they'd been told there were voices, and so they had everything set up in tapes, and it was her doing it, and she was like, a cynical, rightly so, if you will, journalist, and she said, quite clearly, they played the tapes back and 3 voices came through.
Really?
And she said it's completely changed her reality. Completely. This is a lady with 2 kids and a husband, I mean, and a journalist, you know, completely changed her reality. And so, you know, and a remarkable thing happened at one of our pre-marketing meetings here. And I think what's going to happen is that people all over America are going to try this. They're going to go home and they're going to tune in the white noise and they're going to try it.
And you would recommend that they do that?
Well, I don't want to recommend or not recommend. In other words, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, all we've really done here is we've tried to make an entertaining movie. You know, I don't think, we don't want people to sort of take the movie more seriously than it is. We think the subject matter is hopefully, you know, compelling and fascinating, but we just tried to make a movie. But I certainly wouldn't say to people, don't try it if there's...
Well, they're doing it. I mean, there's a growing trend. I mean, you hear more and more people, you know, the woman who interviewed me the other day said, I left the screen and went right home immediately and tried it. Look, I hope it works. My uncle died and still has the keys to my car, so I need to know where they are.
Well, I've tried it too, but no success yet.
Yeah, but you're a miserable Brit like me. We got no chance.
Miserable
Too
Brit?
cynical.
No, that's not true. I mean,
I'll have you know.
I mean, you were talking earlier about, you know, you had seen ghosts. You've witnessed ghosts.
Absolutely.
And yours were sans head.
Very scary indeed.
Sans lid. But the reason I thought of that was my friend Lee, a woman named Lee who's married to Harry, actually. She's as straight down the middle about this stuff as you get. That doesn't think about it much. It's not something it's not a hobby with her, you know, in terms of the paranormal or anything. Also in England, can tell you to this day exactly what she saw, and they were once again without their noggins. She had seen the same thing. I don't know.
Right.
That's because we're very absent-minded in England. It's, the bloody hell did I put it? we're completely confused all the time.
No, someone else sees only the heads. Maybe that's what's missing.
Oh
You have to get together.
Well, listen, did you hear the Butler's EVPs? Did you hear examples of what they had?
Yeah.
And what was your impression?
Well,
of
I mean,
this?
here's the thing. You know, there was a remark. Am I allowed to talk about that thing that happened the other day? You know, the thing
with you and your
the
wife? Absolutely not.
There was a lady. I'm going to shout me if I can't say this. We had some journalists, you know, explaining EVP to them, and there were a number of them in the room, and one of them is a television producer. She said that she'd be interested in trying to contact her dead uncle, her Uncle Bob.
It's funny how all uncles are called Bob. It's a bit weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a culturally specific gag there, but it'll work in England. But she did it with kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Sure. So they break open the tape, they put it into the tape and radio recorder, and they tune into the white noise, and she says, you know, kind of smiling, Uncle Bob, are you there? They play it back, and a voice comes through, says, Beck, it's Bob. Now, this is like 3 months ago in a room full of journalists, and you probably would know this lady. So she was completely freaked out. Turns out she's a very close friend of a friend of ours.
Right.
The whole room is like, what the? And she said that he was the only one that called her Beck, and that it was absolutely his voice.
So it's proof, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, without wishing to sound however this sounds, I still believe that potentially we could be opening a massive cultural curtain here.
I think so.
If 1 million people out of the 280 million people in America try this and 100,000 of them find something happens, I mean, that's pretty profound. What we're talking about here is pretty extraordinary.
Because it actually asks a bigger question, you know, what's out there, and you know, it brings up, you know, what's nice about this movie is, unless you have a pulse, you know, unless you're just flat out dead, you have to think of some other questions like what's on the other side, what is all of this? I mean, I'm purposely being really basic here. You know, it brings up issues of God or no God.
That's
you
right.
know, how's he play into this, or he or she or it? How does it all play into this? And so that's another great thing about it. It's the thing we all keep hearing is it's very thought-provoking. It's extremely thought-provoking, scary. Mostly, it's just a really, really fun movie. There's an extra bonus for, you know, probably your viewers because it's of more interest, unless they look at it and know, a whole lot more about it than we do, in which case they're going, got that wrong. But no, you know what's interesting? The women, one of the women who was interviewing me, I couldn't tell whether she liked it, didn't like it. She was just very straight ahead, just very normal, interviewing. Everything went along, just A, B, C, D. I had no reading from her. She got up, and then when the interview was over, she said, "I love this movie." I said, "Oh, that's really great." She said, "I've been studying this for 20 years."
Wow.
And I thought, I didn't know it existed for 20 years until the guy told me he's been studying it for 30 years. And the one thing she said was, "You guys really got it right." She says, "It's very, very accurate. The way you did it is exactly the way it works."
Wow.
Yeah, that hopefully is that
feedback.
people will find the well-structured reality of it
Absolutely.
intriguing. Hopefully.
Absolutely. Listen, also what I wanted to ask you guys, I had heard that on the whole set of the Poltergeist movie that they were having paranormal experiences. Anything happen on White Noise?
Not for me.
No.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing at all. Oh!
No, nothing.
Oh, really?
And if it did, I missed it totally.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, listen, I have a question for you, Michael. Another one. We have a whole host of viewers that watch the show, and they send in email questions to us. So we have a guy that wanted to ask you a question, and he says, it's Chris from Studio City, and he asks, hearing the voice of spirit is one thing, but have you ever seen a ghost or a UFO, maybe?
No, I have never seen a ghost nor a UFO. But how do you? No, I never have. But I will say this: that friends of mine who are, like I say, have no interest in this, no particular inclination to delve into these things, like my sister, and another friend of mine who's a pretty well-known person who had a tragedy happen in his life, and it was suggested that he see a psychic because he was in pretty bad shape, and a friend of his said, I really think you got to do this. I don't know if I believe either, but a friend of mine went, you should just go to it. And I can't say what the story was, but it made the hair stand up on the back of my legs, on the back of my neck. And so who's to say what's there and what's not there? I myself have never had exactly what he's talking about.
I have, however, seen a ghost.
You have?
I was a kid. I have seen a UFO as well.
Really?
But that's a funny story because I was with my wife and my best friend in Crete, and I said, "Look at that! This is a UFO. I mean, it's not a plane because it's a." And they were like, "Shut up, you prat! It's just a light in the sky." I said, "What is it?" And they said, "Well, we don't know." I said, "Right, it's a UFO." No, but literally, it was anyway. That's by the by. But that was
How much drinking had gone on?
a fair amount. But I did. I did have. When I was around 10 years old, I saw a ghost who, it's a long story, so I shan't do it now, but who turned out, according to my mother, to be her great-grandmother.
Really?
Really?
So, yeah.
Head or no head? Because you folks in England see a lot of headless.
She's Irish. Cut it on, cut the head on, before you.
Well, listen, what message would you hope that White Noise would convey to the audience?
To be open, yeah. I think that's look. You know, I just the reason I think it's interesting. I will tell you the truth. No, nothing happened to me. No, I haven't tried it. No, I've not. I mean, there are things that have happened to me that are totally unexplainable, and certainly really beg the question. I'm thinking of a lot of things that we've experienced. We came from a big house with 7 kids, but I couldn't really say to you, well, this happened, and there may be some way. I have no explanation for them. But I'm purposely kind of straightforward in saying this is the truth, because I was still willing to make this movie, because I think it's good that these questions are raised, because I think there's too much potential out there for definite answers, and you can't say no to any of it. And that's what I like about it, just because I haven't exactly. I actually hesitate to tell you certain things because I actually I'm on the far end of this. Neither he nor I are really guys who. We're looking for something. I kind of like the genre. I want to do something, but that's all. I don't have a particular interest or knowledge in it. But I think being open to it is the only way to be. I keep mentioning this movie called "What the Bleep Do We Know?" Right. I would suggest that to you.
Went to see that.
And once you start thinking about those kind of things,
right.
Well then, something like you seeing something in another dimension, kind of starts to make sense.
Absolutely.
I think. maybe something with heads would be a little more.
Well, with that, I thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been wonderful to see you both.
See you.
And best of luck with the movie.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, is the process by which the dead, through sound and image, communicate with the living through the static and white noise of modern electronic devices.
I lost my daughter on December 23rd, 2001, and 5 months later, my niece picked her voice off her computer.
EVP is a communication with another level of reality, another level of intelligence.
Who's there?
EVP, electronic voice phenomena. It's spirit monkeying around with electronics that gives us these voices. As an engineer, I know modulated sound, and it shouldn't have been there.
Jamie died in a car accident 7 years ago.
Can you give me your name?
Even though he's no longer in the physical, I still have a relationship with my son.
Researchers are studying EVP recordings, looking for answers.
The actual voice and the actual characteristics of the person when they were alive hangs around as long as there's energy there.
They modulate that white noise into words.
The power of consciousness is almost like a force in nature.
A lot of top scientists globally are working on EVP because it's one of the best methods that can be replicated across time and space.
When you hear that voice, it changes your reality. What is this? How could this voice be there?
People will realize they can communicate with their loved ones and they haven't lost them, they're still around us.
The continuation of life is the natural law.
It's when people have their own experiences that they become most convinced that survival is real.
I know what I've heard. I know what the messages I've got.
The doors are open. I really believe it's we who shut the door.
Whether you believe it or not, try it.
And we're back with my other guests today, Tom and Lisa Butler, who I met earlier this year. They're two incredible people researching an incredible phenomena, EVP, known as electronic voice phenomena. And after 14 years of research, they believe that it's proof that consciousness does survive death. And indeed, your loved ones can still contact you from the other side. Recently, they've been advisors to the new paranormal movie, White Noise, which features Michael Keaton, and also the EVP phenomena is the basis of that particular movie. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Lovely to see you again. First of all, how have things been going for you with this this new role as advisors?
It's crazy.
Really?
We do want people to know that we were not approached until after the film was made. A lot of people think that we were actually advisors to the making of the film. Mm-hmm. We actually saw the film for the first time 2 days ago.
Oh, you did?
Right. How this came about, after the film was made, the producer contacted us because we run the association, and he talked to us for about an hour with some other people on the phone about it, and then asked us to come out and speak to the marketing and media department at Universal. And we did a roundtable with the executives there and some ideas on how to market the movie, and they came up with the idea of marketing the movie to educate the public about electronic voice phenomena, which was wonderful for us.
That's great, isn't it?
Because that's what we want people to know about.
That's what you want to do.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
And it gives us that one opportunity to say that the phenomenon in the movie is real, maybe a little bit more than the average person would expect, but it's not nearly as scary as they show in the movie. The movie is
right. A real thriller.
Yeah, having just seen it, it's a substantial movie. People are going to have a lot of fun with it, but it's going to leave people with the sense that, well, EVP is dangerous. Maybe we shouldn't try it. And we get an opportunity now to say, no, it's not dangerous.
Right. Right, because, you know, it's just an experiment to try and see. I mean, what could you let through, really? I mean...
Well, we like to say that we haven't lost a member yet to the other side.
And also that it's much easier to get mugged here than by a dead person.
But that doesn't mean to say that there aren't inherent dangerous, because one of the things that we find that for all intents and purposes, we're communicating with people. They just happen to be on the other side, what we call the other side, and we're not even real sure where that is. But just because they were dead now, they're on the other side, they're not necessarily brilliant, they're not necessarily angelic, they're just pretty much like they were over here. And if you have a trickster over here, likely they're going to be a trickster over there.
Right.
And we run into a few.
Right. So you're convinced now, after 14 years of research, that consciousness does survive?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We can prove it.
It's a natural law for life to continue.
That is very true. The main thing I think people say to us, I mean, a skeptic is going to be a skeptic, and we're not here for the skeptics, because although skeptical is supposed to mean open-minded, there's kind of a fraction right now that is not open-minded at all, and you're not going to convince them. So we're not interested in trying to convince anyone, because it is a repeatable thing that someone can do for themselves and prove for themselves.
Right. I have tried to do EVPs myself for the last month, but not been successful as yet.
Is that right?
Persistence is important.
You've got to keep
so
trying.
You will.
And it's interesting how there's a different, you just don't know when it will happen. For me, a third try, I got a voice.
Really?
But now on that third try that I got a voice, it was so low, I could hear it. It was so low, he couldn't hear it. And as a matter of fact, I think it was probably 4 months, which is a scary thing. You know, I'm hearing voices and my husband isn't. So, for me it was like, okay, am I hearing something that possibly isn't there?
Right.
And then we finally got this angelic voice said, release and remember. And it was a very loud EVP, and he was able to hear
I
it.
could hear it. And it was truly an angelic voice. It was
Really?
a very beautiful voice. I can tell it's a female young lady. And of all the advice that you give to anybody that's grieving a loved one, that's probably the best advice.
Release and let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
but let them move on and do what they have to do.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you'd like to give to our audience watching today if they want to try EVPs for themselves?
I guess I would say it's not something to play with. Just as we have different people here, we have different people there. And I think that somebody is going out for this for just idle curiosity. It might not be a good idea.
With that, I thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's
Thank
wonderful
you.
to see you again.
Good to see you again,
Thank you,
too.
Tom. And thank you for joining us on this week's Let's Talk Paranormal. From all of us here, keep watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.